In Unit 9, we are going to cover metadata framework. In Chapter 1, we will cover create object in configure object definition. Chapter 2, we will see the associations, and in Chapter 3, we will attach these objects with the configuration UI and also see this in configure people profile how these objects are managed or created. So let's look at the system. To go to the object, you need to go to first, you need to go to action search bar and type configure object definitions. In config object definitions, you will see on the left side a search window, search icon, and here you can select object definition, and all the object definitions are available here. Now let's look at the legal entity object definition first. So I will select legal entity and I will say legal entity here. So this is the different fields which are available, which are maintained on the in the object definition. The basic code, which is a basic field, it is a unique code. So when you are creating a new object, this should not exist in the system. Then effective dating. So let me just make correction. So in the effective dating portlet, you have the choice to select from parent, none, basic, and multiple changes per day. So if you already have a parent object and you want to create a child object, then you will select the effective dating from parent. If you do not want it to be effective dated, you will select none. If you want a basic effective dating, you will select basic. And if you have multiple changes per day, then you will select multiple changes per day here. Now I am select in this particular legal entity, the basic field is already selected, and you can see the relevant MDF fields are already populated. MDF system transaction record status, proxy status, object type, record ID, entity ID. These are all system built field. We should not be worrying about it, and we should not be deleting or changing these fields which are created by the system which is created by the system. API visibility, I want this field to be editable to the APIs. So I will say editable, read only or not visible. Status, whether the object should be active or inactive. MDF version history, you can maintain the complete history, or you can maintain delete history, or you can maintain no history at all. You can select the default screen attached to the object. For this one, there is nothing attached. Then label for the object is maintained, and the description of the object. You can maintain the API subversion here. Subject user field is used for the workflows. So if you are having a workflow attached to the legal entity and you do not want that external code field to be used for that, you want a particular subject user field, then you will uh, where you will specify here workflow routing. You will mention it whether it is uh, which kind of workflow you want to be used for this one. Pending data, if the workflow is active, or if the workflow is active, in that situation the data should not be, the user should not be able to edit that object, and in that situation you should always say yes. In to do category, in the manage workflow request, where this particular workflow should come, that will be coming under the generic object change request. So that will be controlled from here. Now these are the different fields which are maintained. So effective start date is a field, and the data type is date, and the details you can see it here, and you can see that this is a main editable field. This is status is active. You can maintain the label here, and you can also use the rules related to the field. You can maintain it here. You can put the field criteria on, and you can also put the conditions for these fields here. So let's look at some other fields like external code, name, description, effective status, effective end date, pay group, default location, standard weekly hours, currency, official language. So these fields will appear in the system in the way it is given here. So I will go to manage data, and I would like to see the legal entity fields. So I will go to manage data here. In manage data, I will go to legal entity. Let's look at best run. Oh, sorry, this is wrongly selected. Legal entity. So as you can see, this legal entity here, it is the start date, then legal entity ID, legal entity name, description, status, default pay group, location, standard weekly hours, currency, and country. Similarly, all these fields are maintained here. Name, description, effective status, date. Effective end date is not visible, that's why it is not appearing. Then default pay, default location, standard weekly hour, currency. Official language is again not visible field, not visible, that's why it's not appearing. And then we have some field country of registration, and this country of registration is also a field which is maintained as a country on the UI. So here you have a country on the UI. So this is how the different fields are maintained here. You can create a custom field. So for example, I want to create a custom test field here, and I want to give the name as test. I will say done. I will save this. I will go to manage data. I will refresh this, and you can see this test field is available for any input. You can put anything here. Okay. Now you can also change the order of the fields. Like if you make correction from here, you can change the order of the fields. Like you can move up and you can move down if you want. And then we have something called associations. So if you see these associations like legal entity USA, the multiplicity is, this is a one-to-one relationship with legal entity USA. So this legal entity is having a relationship with legal entity USA, and this is a one-to-one relationship, and it is a composite type, means the legal entity is a parent object and legal entity USA is a child object for this. Okay, so if you see, let us look at the legal entity USA now. Here, legal entity USA. So if you see legal entity USA here, the effective dating, it is saying from parent, and the fields for legal entity USA is external code, then your legal entity type, Federal Reserve Bank ID, bank district employer ID, and EEO code. And these fields are maintained in the legal entity USA here. If you select C, legal entity type, Reserve Bank ID, Federal Reserve Bank District, Employer ID, Employer Code, and this test field we have added to the main legal entity, and that's why it is coming here. Now, with this, let's go back to the legal entity again and see a different type of relationship. Basically, the association, which is with the name object. So I will go take and make correction here, and if you see this is different type of country, different legal entity for different countries. Association is maintained in this particular association section: Russia, Germany, Spain, France, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Belarus. And then there is another kind of association which is maintained to the name format geo. So this is a name format. So this is an association, one-to-one association with name format. And here if you see the type of the relationship is maintained as a valid when, because this is not based on the parent child relationship. It is whenever it is valid, then this association should be applied. So let's see this association. We did not see because it is saying not visible. Let me make it editable here. I will say done and I will say save. So now I will go to manage data again and I will see this again. So you see that this field is available here now. So we will discuss this in a while, but let's look at the other things on the legal entity object. Let security. So you can make this field secured if you select as yes or no. So currently it is secured under MDF foundation object. You can assign the different rules like we assign the trigger rules in manage business configuration. Similarly, you can assign the rules in on an object, initialize rules, validate rules, save rule, post save rules, and delete rules, and then can save the object. Now let's look at the naming convention in detail.